My brother stole $100,000 from me. 16 years later, he wants forgiveness while dying. I never thought I would tell this story, but it's been eating at me for years. When I was 22, I trusted my older brother, Alex, with the largest sum of money I had ever saved in my life, $100,000. It wasn't inherited or won, it was everything I had worked for after years of grinding jobs, freelancing, and scraping by just to finally have something that felt like financial security. Alex had always been the charming one, the responsible, older brother in the eyes of my parents. Everyone loved him. Everyone, except me, knew he had a history of shady deals, gambling, and manipulating situations to his advantage. But when I told myself I was helping family, I convinced myself he had changed. He asked me for a loan to invest in a business opportunity. It sounded legitimate, a promising tech startup he claimed was on the verge of taking off. He even gave me a written agreement, signed and notarized. I hesitated, but ultimately, I gave him the full $100,000. Months went by, and every time I asked for updates, Alex had excuses. The deal's delayed. The market crashed a little, but I'm handling it. Trust me, it'll come back tenfold. Eventually, the truth came out. The business didn't exist. The money had vanished. He had spent it on gambling, cars, and a lavish lifestyle. I felt like the world had crumbled around me. I was betrayed not by a stranger, but by my own blood. I confronted him. He laughed, tried to justify it, and promised he'd pay me back soon. But he never did. For years, I avoided him, blocked him from my life, and kept my distance from my family because most of them sided with him or pretended nothing happened. I worked 2 jobs, lived frugally, and clawed my way back to financial stability, but the emotional scars were deeper than the financial ones. Fast forward 16 years. Alex reached out. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. He was dying. Cancer. Aggressive, fast-moving. He claimed he wanted to see me, to apologize, to make amends before it was too late. I felt a storm of emotions, anger, resentment, disbelief, and a strange sense of pity. I agreed to meet him, in a sterile hospital room, the smell of antiseptic hanging heavy. He looked frail, a shadow of the man who once stole everything from me. I know I don't deserve this, he whispered, voice hoarse. I was selfish, greedy, and a terrible brother. I ruined your life, and I am sorry. I can't undo the past, but I need you to know I regret it every single day. I didn't respond immediately. I wanted to scream, cry, and leave all at once. I remembered every sleepless night, every panic attack, every moment I feared I'd never recover financially. And yet, here he was, the same person who caused all that pain, asking for forgiveness with death looming over him. I asked the question I'd rehearsed in my mind for years. Why now? Why wait 16 years? He looked me in the eyes, tears mingling with the lines of illness. Because I finally realized that life ends, and money, pride, and excuses don't matter. The only thing that matters is family, and I destroyed ours. I need your forgiveness, even if I don't deserve it. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My emotions were too tangled. But somewhere inside, I felt a tiny flicker of relief. Not for him, but for me. For finally confronting the truth. I stayed with him for a while, talking about memories from childhood, the times before betrayal. And in that small window of shared vulnerability, I forgave him, not for him, but for myself. Forgiving didn't erase what he did, didn't bring back $100,000, didn't erase the years of struggle. But it lifted a weight I had carried silently for far too long. He passed away a few weeks later. The last thing he said was, "Thank you." And for the first time in 16 years, I felt a strange sense of closure. I'll never forget the betrayal. I'll never forget the money lost, the pain endured. But I also learned that holding on to anger indefinitely can be heavier than any financial loss. Forgiveness, even delayed, was a gift I gave myself more than him. After Alex stole $100,000 from me, my life didn't just spiral financially, it shattered emotionally. I was 22, naive, and desperate to believe in family loyalty. That betrayal wasn't just about money, it was a declaration that blood didn't guarantee trust. For the first few years, I couldn't sleep. Every time I thought about Alex, a mix of anger and disbelief surged through me. I replayed our conversations in my head, over and over. It's a great opportunity. Trust me. How could I have been so blind? The fact that he smiled while lying still haunts me to this day. My parents? They were awkwardly silent. Some of them muttered, "He'll make it right eventually," as if decades of damage could be erased by a hollow promise. Their refusal to truly acknowledge the betrayal made me feel isolated. My friends sympathized, but no one could understand the depth of losing your own brother's honesty. I felt like I'd been abandoned on all sides. I worked tirelessly for years to rebuild what Alex had stolen. I picked up second jobs, took night shifts, and lived frugally. I refused to ask for help, I refused to rely on anyone who might betray me. Slowly, I managed to recover financially. But emotionally, that wound never healed. Every time I achieved something, a shadow lingered, the thought that my brother could have had it instead, and squandered it, gnawed at me. Over the years, I avoided Alex entirely. I blocked his number, ignored his emails, and refused to attend any family gatherings where he might be. I convinced myself I'd never forgive him. Then, 16 years later, I got the call. It was from my mother. Alex was hospitalized, late-stage cancer, prognosis grim. He asked to see me. I froze. My initial instinct was to say no, to protect myself from reopening old wounds. But something deeper stirred, curiosity, maybe even the faintest hope that he had truly changed. When I arrived at the hospital, he looked like a shadow of the man who had ruined my life. The bravado was gone, replaced by frailty, tubes, and pale skin stretched thin over bones. He didn't try to charm me or manipulate me this time. He just looked at me with eyes I barely recognized, the guilt heavy, almost tangible. "I know I have no right to ask this," he whispered. "I was a terrible brother. I know I hurt you in ways I can't fix. But I need your forgiveness." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him I hated him, that $100,000 wasn't just money, it was my trust, my effort, my stability. I wanted to cry about the sleepless nights, the panic, the years spent clawing my way back. But as I looked at him, something strange happened. I remembered our childhood before betrayal. The camping trips, the small jokes, the nights we stayed up late sharing stories. I remembered the bond that once existed. We talked for hours, not just about the past, but about the present, about his illness, about life. Alex admitted every detail, every lie, every indulgence that had led him to steal from me. There were tears, apologies, and confessions I had longed to hear but never believed would come. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said finally, voice breaking. "I just want you to know I regret it every single day. You were everything I should have protected, and I destroyed that." I stayed silent for a long time. Anger and hurt battled with the faint ember of compassion I still had for the brother I once knew. Then, slowly, I said, "I forgive you, but not for you. I forgive you for me. So I don't carry this weight anymore." It wasn't immediate peace, but it was a start. Forgiveness didn't erase what happened. It didn't return the $100,000 or the years of struggle. It didn't erase the nights I doubted my worth or the moments I questioned whether family was supposed to hurt this much. But it lifted the constant ache of bitterness I had carried. In the weeks before he passed, we shared small moments, reading old letters, laughing at absurd memories, and sometimes sitting in silence. I realized something important: life is short, and regret is heavier than any grudge. When Alex finally died, I felt a mix of relief, grief, and closure. I had survived the betrayal. I had survived the financial ruin, the emotional trauma, and the years of avoidance. And more than anything, I realized I could live without being defined by my brother's mistakes. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why he did it, or why it took him dying to apologize. But I do know this: forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean excusing. It means freeing yourself from the chains of resentment. And after 16 years, I finally did. After that hospital visit, life felt different, but not in the way I expected. Seeing Alex so frail and remorseful left a scar, but also a strange sense of release. Yet, forgiveness wasn't a simple switch, it was a process, and I was still navigating it. For years after the theft, I had lived in self-imposed isolation. I avoided family gatherings, dodged phone calls, and refused any situation where Alex could cross my path. The trauma wasn't just financial, it had eroded my trust in people. Friends came and went, relationships faltered, and even my career decisions were shadowed by a deep fear of betrayal. I had built walls so high, I barely let anyone in. Seeing him in that hospital bed forced me to confront something I had buried: the long-term effect his actions had on me. I realized I hadn't just lost money, I had lost years of peace, moments of joy, and a part of my own sense of self. Every success afterward was tinged with the shadow of what I'd lost to him. Every relationship had been tested by my inability to fully trust. Alex's death hit me harder than I expected. I grieved not just for him, but for the brother I could have had, the one who might have been a partner in life, a confidant, someone I could lean on. I mourned the innocence lost, the stolen years, and the $100,000 that had represented more than money. It represented my hope in family. After the funeral, I decided I needed to rebuild myself in ways I hadn't allowed for years. I started by reconnecting with old friends, explaining, slowly, why I had been distant. For some, it took patience to understand. For others, it was easy: they had seen my struggles and supported me quietly all along. I also sought therapy, something I had resisted for years, thinking I could just move on. But talking through the layers of betrayal, fear, and anger helped me realize that forgiving Alex was only one step. Forgiving myself for letting his actions define me was the bigger challenge. I also revisited the financial hole he had left behind. Slowly, meticulously, I rebuilt. The money he stole had set me back years, but it had also taught me resilience, discipline, and self-reliance. I started investing cautiously, budgeting intensely, and creating a safety net I wished I had before. I never forgot the lesson: trust must be earned, not assumed. One day, while going through old boxes, I found the original notarized investment agreement Alex had used to manipulate me. I held it, imagining his younger, arrogant face, and felt a mix of anger and pity. Then I realized, the anger didn't have to control me anymore. I had survived, and I had grown stronger. In the end, Alex's death and apology didn't erase what happened. It didn't give me the $100,000 back, nor did it restore the years lost to worry, fear, and doubt. But it forced me to confront the truth: life is fragile, and grudges are heavier than financial losses. Forgiveness, for me, was never about him, it was about reclaiming my own life. 16 years after he took everything from me, I can finally say I'm free. Free from anger, free from resentment, and free from the shadow of a brother who chose selfishness over family. And while I will never forget the betrayal, I now understand that true strength is not in holding grudges, but in learning, surviving, and rebuilding, even when the person who hurt you is gone. I'm not the same person I was at 22, broken and betrayed. I'm stronger, wiser, and more cautious, but also more capable of trusting and loving again. Life gave me a hard lesson, but it also gave me resilience, a lesson no amount of money could teach. It's been a few months since Alex passed. The hospital visits, the guilt, the anger, the long talks, they're all behind me now. And yet, The echo of those 16 years still lingers, like a shadow that refuses to disappear completely. I often reflect on how different my life would have been if Alex had never taken that money, if he had chosen honesty instead of deceit. Would I have trusted more easily? Would I have felt safer chasing dreams? Maybe. But I also realize that the pain, the struggle, and the betrayal shaped me in ways money never could. It forced me to become resilient, resourceful, and self-reliant. I learned to value people who truly matter and to recognize those who don't. I learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it changes you, but it doesn't have to destroy you. I forgave him, finally, not because he deserved it, but because I needed to release the anger that had weighed me down for 16 years. Holding on to resentment had given me no power, letting go gave me everything. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, nor did it mean excusing the theft or the pain. It meant reclaiming my life. In the weeks after his death, I went through old boxes, letters, and reminders of the past. I allowed myself to mourn not just the brother I lost, but the brother I could have had, the one who might have shared in life's joys and hardships without betrayal. I mourned the lost years, the opportunities, and yes, the money. But I also acknowledged my growth, my perseverance, and the victories I had achieved despite his betrayal. Life went on, slowly at first. I reconnected with friends I had distanced myself from, invested in new experiences, and finally allowed myself to dream without fear. I realized that anger is heavy, but hope is lighter. I realized that healing doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was, it means moving forward with the lessons learned. Sometimes, when I think about Alex, I feel a twinge of sorrow. Not for the man he became, but for the life he wasted, the people he hurt, and the potential he threw away. I also feel gratitude, for the lessons I learned, for the strength I gained, and for the clarity that came from surviving betrayal. Most importantly, I feel free. Free from resentment, free from bitterness, and free from the burden of his choices. 16 years of pain, struggle, and self-doubt culminated in one realization: the past cannot be changed, but the future is mine to shape. And now, when I look back, I don't see just the theft, the lies, or the betrayal. I see resilience. I see endurance. I see the person I became because of it. I see a life rebuilt, piece by piece, stronger than before. Alex stole money, trust, and time, but he could never take my resolve, my growth, or my ability to forgive. And that, I realized, was something no one could ever steal from me. The past will always be a part of me, but it no longer controls me. I survived. I endured. And I thrived. It's been months since Alex passed, and the silence left behind is heavier than I expected. I keep thinking about the 16 years he stole from me, years filled with anxiety, self-doubt, and the long, painful process of rebuilding what he took. $100,000 wasn't just money, it was my security, my trust, my freedom to make choices without fear. He took all that, and then some. When he was in the hospital, I didn't know if I could face him. I had imagined the confrontation for years, rehearsed every angry word I might say. But the man I saw was unrecognizable, frail, remorseful, and consumed by guilt. He wasn't the brother who laughed with me in childhood or the manipulative thief who stole my life savings. He was just a human being, facing the end of his days, desperately trying to make amends for a lifetime of selfishness. We talked, really talked, for the first time in decades. He confessed every lie, admitted every deceit, and offered apologies that could never undo the past. I listened. I stayed calm. And finally, I forgave him, not for him, but for myself. Forgiveness didn't bring back the money, erase the pain, or restore the years he took from me. But it lifted the weight of anger I had carried for so long. In the weeks after his death, I reflected on what I had learned. Alex's betrayal had reshaped my life in ways I couldn't have imagined. It forced me to grow stronger, to become self-reliant, and to evaluate the people I allowed into my life. I realized that resentment and bitterness were heavier than any sum of money. Letting go of them didn't excuse his actions, but it freed me to move forward. I also allowed myself to mourn, not just for Alex, but for the brother I could have had, the bond that was lost, and the life that might have been easier without betrayal. It was painful, but necessary. Grief, I realized, wasn't just for those we love, it's for the moments and relationships stolen from us. Slowly, life began to feel lighter. I reconnected with friends I had distanced myself from, allowed trust to grow again, and focused on building a life where my past didn't define me. I invested wisely, worked hard, and reclaimed control over my finances, my emotions, and my choices. The lessons Alex forced upon me through his selfishness became my guiding principles. Vigilance, resilience, and the importance of self-worth. Now, when I think of Alex, it's a mix of sorrow, relief, and clarity. I mourned him, yes, but I also recognized the strength I gained because of what he took from me. He stole money, trust, and years of my life, but he could never take my ability to rebuild, my resilience, or my capacity to forgive. In the end, the betrayal and the apology taught me something essential: life is too short to live in anger, and freedom is found not in revenge, but in release. I survived the theft, endured the pain, and reclaimed my life. Alex may have taken much, but I reclaimed more: my peace, my strength, and my future. And that, I realized, is something no one can ever steal.